Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. This season, we're embarking on a journey of personal growth and reflection as we explore the depths of the human experience. We'll use our good and bad experiences, friendship, and passions to inspire thought provoking conversation and soul driven advice to better help you create a life worth living and step more brightly into yourself inch by inch.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Tracy.
You know, I feel like we really are starting to step back into ourselves inch by inch this year. We've had a bumpy go of it, both as podcasters and people.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful that we have this podcast to work through it.
Um, I am too. And one of the things that I just want to put out there when I first um was thinking about this episode, it was actually quite a while ago, months and months ago, and it was going to be quantum leap year because it's indeed a leap year. And
Still, 2024 keeps going.
right. And I love the idea of like quantum leap and leap year. And plus, I had heard it from someone else that this was going to be their quantum leap year. And I thought, oh, isn't that great? Like, here's, a leap year, you get that extra day just to, it balances out the calendar. And it's sort of like, you just always feel like you have extra time. And then a quantum leap is just like, ooh, like, what a shift. And like, you're unrecognizable, right? and then when we were actually talking about finally doing it, and I was like, I don't feel like this. And then we were calling it the spark, and I was like, I have no spark.
Right. And so I mean, this is our fourth season, fourth year of doing this podcast. And when I reflect on this year, and especially around like the time we decided to take with our extended summer hiatus, our spring, summer, fall, um, I was just reminded like we have a personal development podcast and we have been expecting ourselves to continuously personally develop in addition to hosting the podcast, right? Like if we're trying to talk about our experiences, we oh, I just saw a TikToker and she said, um, places that are sunny all the time and hot
Yes.
all the time and not a single cloud, and no, right? Like it's a desert, right? It dries up.
Yes.
And and so that was kind of the grace I was trying to give us this year, and I'm thankful I did. And it's so funny we both found ourselves in it at the same point in time this year for many different reasons.
Yeah.
But that we weren't feeling the topics we had proposed and that we were excited about and the people we wanted to be. And I'm real thankful we didn't push it. But I'm also there's a bit of me that's like eager to like, how do I get back to that? Because I don't want to keep treading water where I am, right? Like I do want to move somewhere back to shore, further out. I don't know.
Well, and I think that we both know that when we do the podcast, it actually does push us into doing these things and being these people who we want to be and doing the things we want to do. And there's always growth and, there's all of that. And so we know that that happens. But just like, we also know the things that are healthy for us that we should do. And many times when we really need to be doing those things, we're like, no, absolutely not. I will not do those things. So I was a little worried about this episode. And even though I'm feeling much better these days, and, we've recorded a few episodes now. So feeling even better, I was feeling better before that. And we started recording again. And just, I still was like, but a quantum leap year, like, how am I going to do? Like, what does that even entail? And then it was just, I think it was 2 days ago, you, Tracy, sent me a TikTok, and the cover is it says 75 grow.
Mm.
So obviously, we've all, I'm sure, if you haven't heard of 75 hard, bless you. Uh, and there's always been a part of me that's like, could you do it? Do you actually want to do it? And I used to joke with myself, like, maybe 75 mediocre. And then I found out there was such a thing as 75 soft, which I hadn't done.
Yeah, I've
But
been seeing people do 75 medium.
medium, yeah. But this 75 grow, it was like, it was like it opened me up to possibilities. And that got me super excited. It's like it did indeed give me the spark back. And so I feel
Oh.
like the title for this episode is 100% accurate now.
I love that because 75 hard, and we talked about this in our first episode back this season, the sleep. Those don't break the chain ones. Sometimes it is really motivating and it is what you need, and you do need that tough love and that boot camp mentality of if you miss something, you start over, right? And you got to push, push, push. But we were in a place of we were already pretty good at consistently pushing ourselves and in trying to up level or at the very least trying to reassess, understand our blind spots, overcome them, right? Small but steady steps. And we just came to a point where our body, mind, and soul is like, no thanks. No thanks. And now I'm not gonna do
I've had enough.
anything. Just we're done. And so 75 grow. I appreciate not only that title more, but even that content creator's approach to it. It feels like a gentle parenting of yourself, right? Of
Mhm.
when maybe life's a little stagnant, or maybe you're feeling uninspired, or you just want to be more intentional with your life, but you don't need to be mean to yourself about it. You don't need to push. You don't need to have exercising twice a day is such a great, lofty goal to have, but it's not sustainable, right? For many people.
Right.
And usually that's something only, athletes who that's their job are doing, right? Or students who don't have, responsibilities.
Mhm.
And so I like that because I know people who do things like the 75 hard or do things like their Apple Watch challenges, and then at 11:30 at night are, walking paces in their apartment to get their step goal in. And it's like, I don't think that was the point of the goal in the first place.
Exactly. I think about that so much. I also think about, I listen to this content creator and she was doing 75 hard. And she said, I wanted to get back into a habit of the exercise that I really enjoy. And so she would do like a Tai Chi in the morning and a walk outside. That was her afternoon one. And she was doing really well with this. And then one day she forgot to read her 10 minutes or 10 pages, whatever it was. But I loved her attitude because she wasn't like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe that I missed it. And it was like day 60. She said, it did what I wanted it to do. I now have a habit of doing the exercise I want to do in the morning and taking my walk in the afternoon. And I'm really happy about that. And she didn't go back and start over because she felt no need to do that. And so I loved that. But I still was like, I'm still not sold on
Yeah.
75 hard.
75 hard and the way people talk about it, a lot of people approach it like that, like, oh, I need a reset, right? And there's so many ways to do that, but the kind of the heart of 75 hard is kind of I'm gonna win. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
my personal best. I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be better than, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a striving for this ideal that might not ever exist or might not be
Mhm.
sustainable. Whereas like the 75 grow is just like, I just want to live, right? Like right? I don't need to win. I just want to live. Because when like right now I'm faced with a situation where um I just saw another TikTok. That's my life these days until my surgery's done and I'm healed. But this guy was like, does anybody know anybody that's just gone away for 6 months and come back a better person, a different person? You stop socializing, you stop going out, you quit drinking, you started working out, like you just hunkered down and focused on you. And I was like, I would just mouse in my house. I would just hang out and eat snacks. I don't know that I would necessarily make myself better by removing myself from the world. And
Hello, we did that during
see,
COVID
yeah.
and we just all moused in our house and some people made sourdough bread. So I
And
don't.
what a great point. Like 4 years ago, in the launch of this podcast, we've had a lot of change in the world. And like this continuing, succession of never before seen events, never before experienced astrology. There's a comet we won't see for 80,000 years right now in the sky, right? And like last night, I'd already gotten my PJs by the time somebody reminded me of it. And like I went to go change and get my keys. And then I just stopped in my hall and I was like, but you don't want to do this and you didn't know you were gonna miss the comet, right? Like you didn't know. Does it matter? Is this a quality of life thing, right? And so the 75 grow brings me back to like what kind of plant am I and what kind of bloom am I hoping for and how can I nurture that, right? Like I
Didn't
don't
you used
sit
to always say that? What kind of plant am I?
Have
Am I
I?
remembering that right? I feel like I've heard you say that before and I love that. What kind of plant
What
am
kind of
I?
plant am I?
Yeah.
Because I don't sit and scream at my snake plant to grow. I put it in the sunniest spot in my house and I water it and I'm nice, right? Like I don't forget about
Yes.
it.
I think about this as like, okay, I love that. Yes, you don't scream at your plants to grow. Now, of course, every day I'm going to look at my plants and they're going to be like, it's not funny. Don't scream at us. I'm looking at this like 75 grow. It's not that I, want to hold up for 6 months or well, it wouldn't be 6 months. It's literally 75 days. Now, granted, when you're hearing this, it will be, it'll be past that time. But while we're recording it, actually Friday the 18th, from Friday the 18th to the end of the year, that's 75 days. It doesn't matter. You can start it anytime you want to, and you don't even have to have it be 75 days. But for me personally, I'm looking at this like the rest of this leap year, this balancing year, this resetting year as a way for me to grow back to me. So a personal rebalancing. And you brought something up that we have a common thread.
It I'm not surprised that in a year where we're catching up on time, a common topic that we've talked about on the show without really realizing it is a catching up, is a rebalancing, is a recentering. We started the season with growing pains and the choices we make in life and how we can plan for things. And then we took a break and we talked about returning and resetting. And then we decided to take another break and we focused on the future and our hopes for that. And then our first episode back was about waking up and realigning. And so when I read the outline for today and you're like, "Oh, a leap year is all about balancing time, catching up and keeping rhythm of our lives on track." I was like, this year for both of us, it hasn't been as drastic as a Saturn return of like, Daddy Saturn like course correcting you if you're not on the right path and being really dramatic and fatherly about it. This has been just kind of like gentle nudges of just like discontentment and allowing us to make new choices and new plans and test them out and kind of look to the future while we internally recalibrate because the concept of a quantum leap, I mean, I don't know the science of it, but it sounds immediate. It sounds quick, but I also just picture like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when they fax a little boy as a candy bar, right? And he's
Yeah,
all pixelated and like there's a chance you might not go through correct, right?
right.
And so this year to me is kind of like a year feels like a really long time to be unsettled, but at the end of it, right, we might feel like we did take a leap by taking this break. And and refocusing.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, honestly, I am really happy that we did, but now I am ready to just kind of, not to use a cliche, but I'm going to right this second get back on the horse. Um, and I don't want to just like status quo. I do want to end the year. I shouldn't say end the year. I want to look to, I don't know how I want to say this, but I want to start making small incremental changes or adding these cool things back into my life, um, little by little. And I like that. By the way, the person who is doing 75 Grow on TikTok and potentially Instagram is Bad Art Every Day. And she like takes you through it. She's got multiple posts. It's great. She is basically saying we're working on, 5 things, and I love her 5 things, but of course I have to change things up, right? But one of the things that I love that the most that she talks about is avoid avoiding. And while I'm pretty good with like doing the dishes right away, doing my laundry, cleaning up, picking up, things like that, I avoid things like calling my sister or, well, no, I don't avoid that. But you get you get the picture. Like maybe I avoid something at work where I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do this thing. And then I create like a whole story around it. And then the more I avoid it, the more I avoid it. So definitely keeping that one. And there's just, I like it because it feels slow, not easy necessarily, because incorporating something into your day every day or 3 times a week or 5 times a week does take effort and determination. But that's the other thing that I like is she's like, not all 5 things right away. You start with one thing and you do that for 2 weeks and then you can add the next thing in. And so I really appreciated that as well. If you like, are you considering doing it, Tracy, or is it just me? Did you just send it to me to send me off into the
Um,
atmosphere?
I did immediately think of you. I could not find you fast enough in my contacts to share it. Um, so it reminded me, as you describe it, of the at the end of 2022, so at the end of season two, was it? Or end of season?
Three.
No,
Three?
I think it was 2022 at the end of season two. I talked about the
Yeah.
40-day sprint. That at the
Yes.
last 40 days of the year, that I had just been through a lot of medical stuff and I was feeling good and I wanted to be more intentional and I wanted to refocus on that level 10 life. And the 40-day sprint was about getting rid of the distractions, right? And then being more intentional and adding stuff in these 10 category areas. And a level 10 life, if you're trying to do, level 10 and you need or want to make a lot of changes in those spaces, 10 goals a month is a lot. 10 goals a year is a lot, right?
Yeah.
A colleague of mine at the libraries that we share, I shared with her either an article or a book I was reading where he said you should never have more than 7 things on your to-do list. And we just cackle at that because each thing on our to-do list had 7 things, and then those things had 7 things. So how is he categorizing the 7? Are we in line? How much can we chunk this up or down?
Yeah.
Um, and so the 40-day sprint, unfortunately, my body, without me even, because of anything I was doing, was like, no, right? And
No.
so I've been getting derailed from what I want to do for a while. And so I'm gonna use um my leave time to try and figure out what it is I want to grow in, right? That these things that I keep trying to do, that even before I do it, the universe, my body, whatever, it's just like, no. right? Like here's we're gonna put a pretty big block in your way. And um I don't, it's not that I've been avoiding necessarily doing anything else, but I'm gonna continue the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory here. I've been Veruca assaulting it. I've been like stomping on the ground and being like, well,
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
If not now, then in 12 weeks when I'm allowed to do it. And then 12 weeks go by and then something else happens. And I'm like, well, fine. If not now, 12 weeks from now. And then I don't use those 12 weeks because I wait. And I'm waiting to enact the plans I already
Oh,
made, and I'm waiting to do the stuff I say I'm gonna do. So I think I need to recalibrate and where am I leaping to? What do I want to leap in and what can I?
right, right. And also it feels like you said, I was just waiting for those 12 weeks. Like what, because I'm sure there's things you probably could have been doing.
Yeah, and so that's how I'm gonna do it differently this way, where the 75 grow stuff, I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna put a timeline like that or a date to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But as John Green likes to say, I went on a stupid walk for my stupid mental health and it stupidly worked, right? Like, and so we both talked about, some of the stuff that we know is good for us. It didn't feel like it was working anymore, so we let it go. And then some other stuff just naturally fell off. And then other stuff, whether procrastination or just not being mindful about what we weren't engaging in, what we weren't prioritizing, we've kind of lost track of the stuff that we know will make us feel better, that we know science says is good, that so maybe how we used to do it, like say in 2020 when we started this podcast, maybe that's not the method anymore, but we do still need to move our bodies. We should still be meditating. We should still be reading and socializing and all that stuff. And so I'm repurposing my Don't Break the Chain worksheets for surgery to just be a list of things I can do and then just checking off when I do them. And so just trying to, depending on what goes on the list, maybe just like a goal of that first week, one a day, right? Goal of the next week, and it's more of a menu than it is a um
Yeah,
prescribed diet.
right. It's I like to call it a choose my own adventure.
Yeah.
So like if I'm not every day, but like 3 times a week or 5 times a week, whatever. If I want to move my body, then I either walk or I dance or I do this thing. And then it's what I decide. Or maybe it's not even that. It's just like, what do I want to do to de-stress? Do I want to listen to music? Do I want to meditate? Do I want to walk? Like that kind of thing. But I have a list of things that I can choose from. I really like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so for her 75 hard, for her, or 75 hard, her 75 grow, her 5 things that she's doing: movement, avoiding, and then I think you stopped there. So I think she also said,
No,
oh, you did?
no,
Did
I
you read
didn't.
all of them? Hand, make, connect, reflect. And so you're going to movement, avoidance, and then these next
I'm
two I don't think we talked about.
Well, no, we haven't because they're mine.
Yeah. So you said, well, because you
But
just brought up movement.
right, right. So movement, I do want to continue that. And I feel like I need it on the list. There are some things I don't think I need. Well, I don't know. So I'm doing movement. I'm also adding avoidance because, like I said, I get very picky with what I avoid. And then I get very committed to that avoidance to the point where it becomes a block for me. And
Mhm.
then I'm adding life magic. And I worded it that way because I had started a list of all these things. Um, and there were like, I don't know, 15 things on the list. And I realized that a few of them could be categorized. So once again, I could like choose my own adventure, what that means. And I love ritual. I love honoring the seasons. I love like tarot. And so life magic to me just means you have to do something in that list that makes you feel like you're connected to source, the universe, whatever. And then the next thing on my list is to write/create. So whether that's actually writing the next book or if it's writing, show notes for the podcast, or creating like jewelry or writing a blog post. It's just something to keep that creativity because it's one of my core values and I don't do it enough. So that's in it. And then I didn't put a fifth thing because I was like, do I keep like, for me, reflect and be present is more in life magic.
Mm.
But then I was wondering about like connect on purpose. And this year I've made such great strides with that I'm like, do I keep that or
Oh,
do I think of something? Oh, what? Tell me.
Amy, we had word of the year this year. You were going to invite, right? Was that
Well,
this year?
right. That's why I said I've made such great strides with
Yeah,
that
that's what made
this
me think
year
of it. Yeah, you didn't use it. Sorry.
because, yeah, because I did make it my word of the year. Well, actually, it was given to me. I've never done this before. It was given to me and I was affronted. And then I was like, oh, you actually do need this to be your word of the year. And I took it to heart and have done many things this year that I don't typically do. So, but I still don't know what my fifth thing is going to be if I just continue with that or make it something else.
I wonder too, like for something like 75 Grow, would something like Dream be appropriate, right? Like it sounds like we're both at a crossroads and we're trying to figure out what's next. And so maybe just taking that time to like allow yourself to not have to have it figured out, but still play with the possibilities. And
Yeah.
it's not an achievement-based thing, right? Like it's just like a open your mind, consider it. One of those trainings I attended earlier this year, what I totally co-opted her saying, she's like, we're just renting ideas here. You don't have to buy, just rent, participate and rent. If you
I
want to
love
buy,
it.
you can buy, you can take it with,
I
you
love
can
it.
rent to own. And so I think that's what I have to get better at is I'm so quick to jump on, oh, I want to do this thing. And then all of a sudden, all I have in picture is, this end game that, takes most people 4 years of consistent dedication to get to. And I
Mhm.
don't have those baby milestones in mind in the dream, right? So then I feel like I'm not moving towards it. And then I feel like I've dreamed so big I can't let go of the dream. And instead, maybe part of this grow is just dreaming.
Yeah. I think I would add to that like acting. Like
Mm,
what if with the dream I was just like, okay, that's I guess what I'm going to be today.
a little
Like
character work, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Sort of like, of course, we've talked about this as well, like our alter ego type of situation. Um, I don't know, but it's also fun just to think about what you would want to work on for the 75 grow. And I wouldn't even use it work on. I don't even think I would use that term.
Play.
Yes. What do you want to play with? What do you want to play with for the last days of this leap year? I feel like it's just such a great I just love the idea. And also I actually did write in here a definition of a quantum leap term for a sudden and massive change, a shift that moves an atom to from one state to a completely different one, seemingly in the blink of an eye. So,
So what I like about 75 Grow is I'm a participant and it feels like I'm helping to move forward to that growth. But what appeals to me in a quantum leap is anytime I've made a massive shift in my life. So I once lost over 100 pounds. I've actually done that twice in my life. And you know, one was 25 years ago, one was a little over a decade ago. I had tried to lose weight using the same methods before or after, but in both of those times that were successful, it was just all of a sudden something clicked. And all of a sudden something just worked. And all of a sudden all the stuff I was doing just felt right and it was having good results and like I was really in it and before I knew it it was done and it didn't feel like work. And so I feel like the part of that waiting that I just talked about is based on those prior quantum leaps and maybe not recognizing the amount of work I was putting in because it didn't feel like work. That I'm
Yeah.
waiting for that quantum leap moment, right? That little spark to feel. And I one thing that Nicole Nardoni, one of my spiritual coaches, it kind of taught me during the pandemic that I keep losing sight of because I feel so exhausted in this body I'm in, but you can generate your own spark. Like she had
Yeah.
me do it in one of our one-on-ones together where that energy and that momentum and all that stuff you feel in like your root chakra and your solar plexus and whatnot, you can generate it. It's not as exciting and maybe it doesn't feel as sustaining, but I'm gonna I'm gonna work on not waiting for the spark and maybe just being okay with like just those little sparks at first. I'm hitting the flint.
I feel like I mean the way that you talked about it with what happened, it almost sounds like a quantum leap, right? So it's but what I also loved is then when you said it was more like the quantum leap was just that spark, that thing that just shifted internally. It's not like you went from one way to another, boom, in a quantum leap, but it was just that that shift in how you were thinking about it.
And it's really easy to look back on it and be like, wow, that was such a passive experience. I was, touched and guided and like I just woke up thinner. But when I look back on that, goddamn, was I working out a lot? Was I really focused? It didn't feel like work. It's kind of like the author of
Yeah.
the 4 Hour Work Week, everybody in the personal
Tim
development author
Ferriss.
space, yeah. They call bullshit because they say he loves what he does, so he doesn't consider it work. They all say he works more hours than anybody they know, but he offloads the stuff he doesn't want to do. So he's not considering the conversations and the emails and the website building and the idea generating work, but he is not just lounging, right? Like he's
But
in his
so
spark, his
I
place.
think the key to that then is the same thing that you were talking about. The 4 hour work week is to find work that you absolutely fall in love with. And then it might feel like that, or and to become rich enough that you can hire people to offload the things you don't like to do, right?
I think a lot of it though comes back to those mindset shifts, right?
Yeah.
And becoming a yes and person in your own
Yes.
head,
Mm-hmm.
and in your own life and seeking out those situations that align with how you want to be and how you want to
Yeah.
feel.
I
Um,
think today just talking about it, I said I got my spark back after you sent me the 75 girl, but in a sense, it was my own quantum leap that happened in that little moment. So,
and the only reason I sent it to you wasn't like, oh, Amy needs this. It was Amy would love this, right? So
yeah.
you were already there. It was just like an external reminder. Like I've had a really challenging up and down week, all week with work. And yesterday I recognized I have been doing the same thing. So I go through this process at work where we do questionnaires, slightly different subject, but the same questionnaire, same process for everyone. And some of my days, I was ending the day feeling useless, bad at my job, dumb, right? Nobody's saying these things to me, but just like, God, how can I do better? And I don't want to feel like this. And then every other day, and today, I end feeling on top of the world and feeling great. And it's like, it's all that's changed is the people in the meeting and how they view the process. And so the days that I felt great, and especially today, two of the people that I highly admire in this space complimented without being asked the process, us, said they always look forward to meeting with us, right? And they really were great thought partners in it. And I was on top of the world and loving my job. But Amy, yesterday, I was like, God, I got to look for new work while I'm on break. Like, I
Oh,
can't feel like this
no.
anymore, right? And I've
Yeah.
decided, you know what? I need to show up to those meetings as though the person I'm talking to loves the process and understands it's great and we're doing good work. I have to not, I have to have that shield up and bring my own spark. I can't, it's not that I need to be complimented, but I definitely like if they're not feeling it, that's on them on their day, right? Like they totally could
Right.
have everybody who is a part of this process, their engagement in it is what dictates their experience in it.
Yeah.
My boss and I operate the same way in every single one. And so that was kind of huge for me. So I don't know if I still want to, risk feeling the whiplash from day to day because that is really challenging and hard, but also holding like that little quantum leap of like I could come back from leave with a totally different mindset, right? Like a different brain, and life can be what I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You know what? This is not the time to tell this story. Cliffhanger. And so maybe I'll tell it next time because it during a break and some things happened and I came back to work with a completely different mindset. This is a million years ago, but maybe I'll tell it in a story on Instagram.
I
I
love
don't know.
that.
We'll
A
see.
little teaser.
Yeah.
Well, if this episode spoke to your soul and maybe sparked it a little bit, please share it with a friend. And if you have some time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day and you find your own spark.
Bye.